Badgers football does what Badgers basketball hasn't been able to do. They hit in the portal. Let's talk about it. Let's fire the cannons.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much, so incredibly much for tuning in, for making this one of your first listens every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Badgers football. Luke Fickell, AJ Blazek, they go into the portal, and they land what can be kind of a sneaky, significant piece. When anybody comes in, we fire the cannons. Let's
fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Leyton Nelson commits in the portal out of Vanderbilt. He has 3 years left. Originally from Orlando, Florida, as a high school kid, 3-star recruit. Let's start there. Going back, watching some of the huddle film. What kind of player is Leyton? What kind of recruit is he? How big of a pickup is this? He was a pretty high 3-star commitment. The offer list is really good. When you start looking at the offer list, now again, we're looking back a couple years. We all know how offers work, how reported offers work. Sometimes they're valid, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're, for lack of a better word, temporary. But he does have a reported offer list that includes Miami, Auburn, Pitt, Louisville, Florida State. Again, he was a Florida kid. Some of the big powerhouses down there had interest. Penn State, Tennessee, USC, Virginia. I always like seeing, I've talked about this before, there's a couple academic schools, right? If a player's getting Virginia, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Stanford, you get those type of offers, and I feel pretty good about you fitting. Listen, it's not that you need those offers to fit into Madison. It's not like Madison is Cornell, right? It's not that. That's not what I'm saying. But those types of offers are indicative of somebody who's handling his business in school, of someone who has probably a pretty good head on his shoulders. It's not a be-all, end-all, but I like seeing that type of offer list. So here's a player coming in with a really good offer list, prototypical tackle size, 6'6", 310. He came out of high school about 6'6", 270. He's 6'6", 310 now. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. Going back, just watching the huddle film, I took some notes. First of all, he is nasty. Like nasty, which we always talk about as an offensive line. You want that trait, that intrinsic desire just to pancake people, right? Listen, sometimes it's not that complicated. Being an offensive lineman, being a defensive lineman requires brute physical strength. You have to want to move your person from point A to point B against their will, right? You have to want to put them on the ground. There is a mental toughness, intangible quality to being an offensive lineman. It sounds like hyperbole when people say, he's nasty. No, but like, he buries people and he continues to bury them. And that trait shows up in high school. I don't think that's a trait that goes away, right? That's a trait that a lot of great offensive linemen share. Go watch, I tweeted it, the first clip of his huddle film, he pancakes a guy, he lays on top of him, and then he pretends to do like the freestyle. It's kind of hilarious, actually. Some people may not love that. I think it's kind of hilarious. But multiple clips of him finding people in space, burying them, pushing them again on the ground. Again, between the whistles, you don't want that to extend past the whistle, but you want a little bit of I'm going to bully you as an offensive lineman. Between the whistles. Off the field, I want a choir boy, right? Off the field, I want you volunteering to sell Boy Scout cookies and then giving some time to the local humanitarian shelter. But on the field, you got to have a little bit of, I'm going to kick the absolute ever-living crap out of you if you're going to be a great offensive lineman. It looks like he has that on film. So that's great. Good movement skills. Again, that's probably something that continues to translate. He came out of high school about 275. He's up to 310 right now. Really good in space. They use him on pulls, motions, angles. They use him on a couple screen plays where he gets out in space and he's able to pick up people pretty easily, moves his feet pretty well. This feels like a quality pickup, a real quality pickup. This is not a bargain bin shopping at Goodwill pickup. And by the way, like, basketball side, we're going to talk about Greg Gard later, but man, you got to get it going, right? Football's landing to this dude here. You got to pick up that momentum on the basketball side too. What does it mean for this year? Leyton Nelson, what does it mean? Well, depth on the offensive line is one of the biggest question marks I have on this team. And I don't even know if it's not like this fully solves everything. but he gives you another body, right? He gives you another body that's played college football. He gives you another body that is the requisite size that you need to play in the Big Ten and be able to compete at the line of scrimmage against the Michigans, against the Penn States, against the USCs, against the Iowas, against the Minnesotas. He's 6'6", 310 with a couple years of experience in a college strength and conditioning program under his belt. That's really important. I think this could be your swing tackle this year. This could be a guy who, can play left tackle, right tackle. He's got some experience in practice at Vanderbilt doing both of those things, right? So he gives you experience at both the tackle spots. Right now, you look at that depth chart, Kevin Haywood, who's a true freshman, who has been, by all accounts, exemplary as a true freshman, rolled early in spring practice, has already got his weight up. Brady Collins loves him. He's still just a true freshman, right? I don't know if you want him to have to be in that too deep unless he's absolutely incredible. This provides some more depth just in case he's not quite ready and then there's an injury, or if you want to go jumbo for some package, or if you just want to rotate for some reason, or whatever it is. Injuries happen. Attrition happens. Football is the ultimate game of attrition, at least that I follow, right? People fall out. People get hurt. People get dinged up. People are at 70%. Adding bodies on the trenches, absolutely vital when you don't have that deep level of depth. Now, multiple freshmen are coming into the program this year. They recruited 5 of them. That's probably for a year or two down the road. We all know how that works. You got to be pretty special as a freshman. You got to be a Travis Frederick as a freshman to play right away and be impactful. And Kevin Haywood may be that type of guy, by the way. He really may be. Colin Cumberly has looked really good too, by all reports. Another true freshman. They're still just true freshmen, right? This guy comes in and he gives you some immediate depth that you can plug in and you can feel like the wheels aren't going to fall off. Sometimes that's all you want from your depth. Come in and don't let the wheels fall off. And the other point I'd make is a lot of times the really good acquisitions in the portal are not the flashy ones, right? Nick Evers, super flashy addition. It didn't work out. CJ Williams and Bryson Green were the flashiest receiver portal additions. Will Pauling was the best receiver of that group among the transfers, right? Sometimes the singles and the doubles end up being the type of plays that make a lot of sense. And this is a pickup that a lot of people aren't going to lose their minds over. And you shouldn't lose that's the wrong term. You shouldn't lose your mind over this. But this is a pickup that a lot of people are probably just going to gloss over. It's an offensive lineman from Vanderbilt. This could end up paying huge dividends if a Riley Molman gets nicked up, if a Nelson gets nicked up. You might be able to plug this guy in and not miss much of a beat. And for the future, this is a player with 3 years of eligibility left. This could be after Nelson leaves, after Molman leaves. Obviously, there's other competition there that's going to be coming with Coverly and Haywood, Benchwall, among others. This could be a starting tackle in a year or two as well. So you picked up somebody to help the depth right now, and you picked up somebody who could compete for starting spots down the road. It's an excellent pickup. This is an excellent pickup to address one of the biggest issues on this team right now, offensive line depth. And then here's the kicker. Here's the part that I saved it for the end, but I think it's one of the most important. Who was the offensive line coach at Vanderbilt last year? AJ Blazek. Who's the coach now at Wisconsin? AJ Blazek. There is a very real connection here, and they're not going to bring somebody in. They're not going to bring a Leyton Nelson in unless AJ Blazek swears by him. And AJ Blazek's had a chance to coach him, to work with him, to give him feedback, to recruit him, to know his practice work ethic. You don't want issues in your room, and you're not going to recruit him if you think he's going to be an issue. So I think this checks all the boxes you're looking for. Depth, swing tackle, years of eligibility, connection to a coach, pretty high level recruit coming out of high school. There's still upside there, good size. Yeah, great job, Luke Fickell. Great job, football staff, addressing one of your biggest needs in the portal. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about TVD, Tyler Van Dyke, picking up steam. Why I got 4 or 5 reasons why if Tyler Van Dyke wins the job, it's really the best case scenario for the Badgers. Coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at Game Time. Man, I have talked on multitude occasions about Game Time and the best way to buy tickets. I could tell you about my foibles in New York City, walking around trying to buy a ticket and getting lost. I can tell you about other situations I've gotten into because I haven't used an app like Game Time to make planning easier, to make ticketing easier. Game Time is the ultimate source for all your ticket needs, entertainment needs, whatever you want, sports, concerts, theater, comedy. It's all there on Game Time. North America's fastest growing ticketing app for a reason. This is literally where I go to get tickets, y'all. I'm not blowing smoke. Go to Game Time. You get better prices, better inventory, and you can shop from home. You don't got to go anywhere. You don't have to pay more money. You don't have to worry about logistics, last-minute flash sales, the best prices on the greatest selection of tickets. It just makes life easier. Like, that's all you want. Things that make your life easier. That is what Game Time is for tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. That's Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Today's episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. If you're anything like me, I like spicing up my sports events, right? Putting a little money on the Niners here and there, on the Suns here and there, and then I lose that money here and there because the Niners and the Suns never win when I need them to, but I still enjoy it. It's still fun for me. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. That's where I go to bet, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Please do it responsibly, but all the sports you need, futures, spreads, parlays, teasers, really easy user interface, quick payouts, none of that mumbo jumbo nonsense from those crazy offshore places that are routing through 13 different dark webs. I just made all that up, but that's probably true. FanDuel is legit. It's fast. It's easy. It's safe. Simple. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. The official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. All right. Let's keep going here. Let's talk TVD. Let's talk Tyler Van Dyke. And Curtis Holland was just on the show the other day, whose perspective I love. One of the people I really enjoy getting on among many. And we talked a lot about Braden Locke, right? And we talked about Tyler Van Dyke too, but we talked a lot about why this is a battle, what Braden Locke potentially brings to the room. There's been reports recently Tyler Van Dyke has been looking better and better. Really should be expected as he starts to pick up that offense more and more. I'm going to give you some reasons why Tyler Van Dyke winning this, in my opinion, is really the best case scenario. And I want to start here. If everything clicks mentally, if everything clicks internally, if he picks up the playbook, and this is something Curtis and I talked a lot about, that has to happen, right? You don't just get on the field because you have the strongest arm if you don't know the offense. You have to be able to execute the offense. But let's say he's to the point where Phil Longo's comfortable with it, he's comfortable with it. If all of those are happening, Tyler Van Dyke winning the job gives you the strongest arm on the field. He gives you the best physical package that you can realistically expect to play this year. Because I don't think it's realistic to expect Mabry to, right? So he gives you the big, strong, prototypical guy who can push the ball down the field. If it clicks, that gives you the highest upside. It really does. For this year, he's got experience. He's got the best arm. He's got better than advertised speed, good size. There's a chance like he could throw for 25 touchdowns this year, run for a couple more. It's not unrealistic. There's a non-zero chance. Now, I also said last year there's a chance Tanner Mordecai could throw for 30, and we all saw that worked out, right? So I'm not going to go crazy here, but he gives you more upside if the intangible between the ear stuff clicks. That's reason one. Reason two, let me pull up my list here. I apologize. Reason two, it keeps the depth in the QB room. We talked about this as well. If Van Dyke wins, if Braden Locke were to win, there's a chance Van Dyke would just wash his hands and say, I don't know what that situation would look like because it'd be probably after the portal had closed, but he would probably say, I'm done. I'm out. If Tyler Van Dyke wins, though, he's the starter. Braden Locke's not going anywhere if Tyler Van Dyke wins because Braden Locke is probably just going to stay and compete the next year. So you keep Braden Locke as the 2, Tyler Van Dyke as the 1. You still have Mabry as the 3. Coulter Cruz still in the room as soon as he can get healthy. It gives you the best depth in the room if Tyler Van Dyke wins because I think everybody stays in that case. Whereas if Braden Locke wins, I'm not sure if everybody stays. Speaking of that, just to take that one step further, right? If Tyler Van Dyke wins, it's a lot easier to pivot later in the road down to Braden Locke. Just for whatever reason, via injury, but I'm talking more inconsistency. If it doesn't work out, if Tyler Van Dyke has a multiple game stretch where it's rough, where he's throwing too many interceptions, where he's not executing the offense. What we talked about with Curtis, if he's not executing it, I think it's then easier to pivot to the younger guy. It's a little more understandable. Whereas if you have Braden Locke, you throw him out there, he doesn't do well. He's inconsistent. It falls apart. And then you pivot to Tyler Van Dyke. Hey, Tyler Van Dyke might not be engaged. He may not want that. He may not be engaged in the backup position. So I don't know what you're getting there. But you also potentially destroy Braden Locke's confidence in that situation. You may lose both of them, right? So I just think it's easier to pivot down the road if you start with Tyler Van Dyke and Braden Locke can come in and be kind of a relief pitcher if necessary. And here's the other one. I think you set up, I don't know if this is really beneficial or not, but I think you set up an actual battle next spring between Locke and Mabry, right? As the two youngsters coming in, I think it really set up an interesting battle between those two. Whereas if Braden Locke wins the battle this year, he might be difficult for Mabry Montoya to catch, just because he's going to accumulate so many reps and he's going to just put that type of distance between them. So I think Tyler Van Dyke potentially winning this job. And again, he's got to still win it. Nothing has been decided. Like, we're in spring practice, but it sounds like he's been putting together his best practices. When you listen to practice reports from Nick Osen and Zach Heilprin and those guys talking about the best we've seen at Tyler Van Dyke, and he really needed this. If he starts stacking those, you're going to have the highest upside quarterback on the field. You're going to keep your depth intact because Braden Locke's not going to go anywhere, in my opinion. Like, I think he's going to stay to battle the next year, and he'll give you a really good number 2 this year. I mean, that's a really good one, too. If Tyler Van Dyke can get more consistent and then Braden Locke's your backup, that's a really solid quarterback room. It allows you to have that big quarterback battle next year between Mabry and Tyler Van Dyke. And again, I think it's a lot easier to pivot in the middle of the season if you had to, right? If you had to go from Tyler Van Dyke to Braden Locke, it makes more sense now than it would if you were trying to go from Braden Locke to Tyler Van Dyke. Because I don't know. And this is not to disparage Tyler Van Dyke. I don't know him at all, but I just don't know how locked in he would be if he'd even still be here on the roster. So I'm very encouraged by the fact that we're getting kind of positive Tyler Van Dyke news. I think that's the best possible outcome. It's got to continue. He's got to keep stacking those performances, but I'm encouraged by it. All right, coming up. Oh boy, we had good news to start, right? We hit the portal. We got offensive line depth. Now we're going to talk about the other program and its portal successes and failures. A couple big targets for Greg Gard have gone elsewhere. Let's talk about it coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. And listen, I've been told on more than one occasion, like, Ryan, chill out. You're a little competitive. I remember playing video games as a kid and being told, we're not going to play with you anymore because when you lose, you just cry. Like, I have a competitiveness to me that is, I try to keep in check. I've talked about losing a friend over a board game before. That's a true story. CJ, again, home slice. If you're out there, let's reconnect. Monopoly Go fits perfectly with my competitive side. Monopoly Go is a new twist on the classic and beloved board game. It is incredible. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. That's insane. It's 150 million times more than any app I've ever made that's been downloaded. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play on not one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards, play with your friends or against them, smash their vaults. It's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with your friends and people all over the world in time tournaments to win huge rewards, playing a game we all love. We all love Monopoly, except when it's destroying friendships. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right. Oh, we got to do it, y'all. We got to talk basketball. Lots of thoughts here. And again, we started off this show so well. I want to start here, actually. I forget where I saw this, but somebody was talking on Twitter, and I really don't remember who said this. So I want to give credit, but I don't remember who said it. They were like, you got to kind of give Greg Gard credit. He's built a very pilferable roster. And what they meant by that is Greg Gard this year did amass talent, either through recruiting, through the portal, through development, that other teams really coveted, right? In a weird way, okay, right? Chucky Hepburn's gone, probably going to Louisville. AJ Storr is officially signed with Kansas. Since we last talked, Connor Essegian has signed with Nebraska. Listen, Connor Essegian didn't play last year, and Nebraska came in and got him in. He had also had visits with Indiana, Maryland. There's pretty high-level players on this roster last year that other teams have come in and really prioritized. So in a weird roundabout way, there is some credit to Greg Gard there for getting the talent on the roster that other teams coveted enough to come in and steal. But yeah, it's a very backhanded compliment. All right, couple major targets for the Badgers. Point guard Tyrese Hunter has announced he's signing with Memphis, who also signed another point guard in the portal, so they're doubling up. That must be nice. We can't get one, and they got two. Brandon Angel was a big target, a force coming out of Stanford, previously recruited by Greg Gard. Good relationship there, a player that would have fit into this roster like a Lego. I mean, just would have fit perfectly into this roster. Multi-skilled veteran, could have stepped right into the spot that Tyler Wall vacated. He announced he's going to Oregon. Now, again, this is where we always get into the roundabout conversation of, Is he going to Oregon because the Oregon staff did a great job recruiting, or is he going to Oregon because that school prints money? Oregon is literally an ATM for NIL. I had no idea what he got offered, but it's hard to, at some point, and I struggle saying this because I don't know the money everybody's getting. There are definitely reports in certain places, but at some point, if you're Greg Gard and this staff, you got to land talent. Like, every player can't be an NIL excuse. Like, they're getting more money somewhere else, and nothing we can do. Listen, you lost Chucky Hepburn, AJ Storr, and Tyler Wall. There's money that Wisconsin can spend. You got to find somebody who is willing to take it, and it's been a major struggle. I put this on Twitter, but a few weeks ago, I was dreaming in my head of a 9-man rotation that was Chucky at the 1, Klesman at the 2, Fiddler at the 3, Angel at the 4, Crowell at the 5, and then Freitag, Blackwell, Winter, McGee coming off the bench. That's a great team. Like, that team, and since then, Hepburn's gone, probably to Louisville, right? We lost out on Fiddler, and we lost out on Angel, and we haven't added anybody. This might be, you got to land talent, man. And at some point, there's no excuses. You got to land talent. And I talked about it before. Like, Wisconsin, you can't expect Wisconsin to compete with the top line blue bloods for every talent, but you also can't lose every target you bring in, right? At some point, you got to push some chips into the middle and sell the program and say, we're giving you this role. Here's what we can offer you. Here's what this ecosystem is. This is what Madison is. Like, it's an incredible town. We know that. Playing the Big Ten in the Kohl Center, you got to sell it at some point. And if these guys continue to come to campus, like Fiddler and Angel and Hunter, if they continue to come, leave, and go somewhere else, then commit somewhere else, at some point, it's not tenable. Like, the roster is not good enough, and you have to start landing talent. It's as simple as that. I've defended Greg Gard several times. I still think he gets flack in spots that I don't think he should. Not all of this is on him. Like, there are money amounts that other schools offer that we're just not going to. That's not on Greg Gard. I don't believe that's on Greg Gard. That's been my opinion for a while. But at some point, that excuse starts to not hold any water, right? Or excuse or reason, whatever you want to frame it as. It starts to not hold water because you're the head coach. And ultimately, roster management, roster construction is on you. That's why you get paid $3 million plus, right? Like, that's the bottom line. And maybe you need to find somebody at Wisconsin who can do a better job of scouting lower level schools for up and coming talent. You can maybe it needs to be more of a Moneyball approach, right? Everyone familiar with that movie, or the Oakland A's, where you're looking for certain traits that are maybe overlooked and undervalued in spots, and you're using those to add to the roster. Whatever it is, it's about talent acquisition. And so far this offseason, it's been a big goose egg, and that's not good enough. It's right now you're going to have to replace Hepburn, Wall, and Storr, and you're going to have to replace them just to get back to where you were last year, where we were last year was a 5 seed that got bounced in the first round. That's not even a great year. It's a good year. I still maintain that's a good year. If you're a 5 seed, it's a good year. I understand the first round exit. I still maintain tournaments are wonky. That's a good year, but you got to replace a lot just to get back to that point. I think the ship has sailed on thinking we're going to improve from last year. I don't know how you lose those bodies and then find a way to get better than last year's team. I think if we can get back to where we were last year, that might be the target right now. One last thought on this basketball. I still maintain, I've been talking about this more and thinking about it more, and it seems like most people disagree with me, but I still think you don't need a major point guard coming in. I think if you get a depth guy, you're fine. Yeah, because I tend to think I'm getting more and more on board with Freitag's going to play a major role. I think Blackwell takes a jump up. You have Klesman and you have McGee. Think about it this way. Hepburn takes 32-ish minutes away. Like, that's about what he played last year, right? Well, I think Blackwell's going to play 10 more minutes this year. I think Hepburn's going to come in and play 20. That's 30 minutes right there. That's 30 new minutes from the guard rotation. That kind of slots into what Hepburn took. Now, Hepburn's not replaceable necessarily with those 30 minutes. I don't think you're going to get anybody. I don't think Freitag's going to come in and run the offense with the same level of efficiency. He's not going to have the same kind of feel. But I also think he gives you more scoring punch, potentially a little more size. I think you get better in some ways, worse in some ways. But that's survivable. I really believe that's survivable, especially if you can add a depth guard, because injuries worry me in that situation, right? You don't want to be so threadbare on depth that if one guy goes down, you're kind of shot. So, but I don't know if you need a major point guard to come in, because I think Freitag may be able to handle 20 minutes, and I think Blackwell's going to get 10 more. But you need wings. There's no way around that one. You need a 3. I think you need a 4. Otherwise, this roster's not good enough, no matter what Daniel Freitag comes in and does, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if you need a point guard, but you need a 3s and 4s, and that pot is drying up. There's a lot of players still out there, but how many difference makers are out there? Because you have to replace difference makers. Storr was a difference maker, Wall was a difference maker, and Hepburn was a difference maker. You got to bring difference makers in. I think Freitag could potentially be a difference maker in year 1, potentially, but that's not a guarantee either. So the clock is ticking on Gard. You got to make this offseason count. Anyway, on Wisconsin, thank you so much for tuning in, as always. Really do appreciate y'all. Come join us on the Discord. If you want to talk Badgers, come join us on the Discord. It's free. It's great Badger talk. No politics. No Gophers. Let's go. On Wisconsin, and we'll talk later.